Welcome to a new lecture. And in this lecture, we are going to see how the data is flowing through the internet, how a request is sent to the server where a website is hosted, and how the data is returned back to the machine of the requester. Yeah. So that's the topic of this particular lecture. And most of you would be aware of this data flow over the internet. However, for the benefit of students who are new to this topic or new to the industry or who are just aspiring to move into the IT industry, we would like them to also get them a good understanding of this topic. All right, let us now dive into the topic. All right, now you have your laptop or your desktop and you're opening a browser. And once you open your browser, you want to go to a website. You want to access the information which is available on a website. So what you would do is you would go and type the name of the IP website. Let's say any website. Let's say youtube.com, or facebook.com, any website. Yeah? Usually when you access a website, a copy of that website is stored within the local cache. Okay. Most of you would know about the temp directory where you will be finding all those residual files and all the temporary files. So this is the place where the cache of the website, the cookies and all this information is stored. So there is actually a copy of the website also, the different components of the website which is stored there. So if this information is there, your machine would actually go and just present that information to you. So remember, this is a stale information being presented to you there. However, let's assume that this is a new website that you are trying to access and you have not accessed this website in the past. So what would happen is now your machine would go and ask your router because the data needs to, you are now requesting some data and the requester package needs to go to the website, the server which is hosting the website, and it needs to bring back that information to your browser. All right. So it needs the IP address now. So what it does is, let's say you are connected through LAN or you are connected through Wi-Fi. So whichever is your first point of contact, so which is normally your internet gateway, your Wi-Fi, your router, the modem. Yeah. So that is going to, normally it is your Wi-Fi modem, which is your primary contact or your first contact into the networking. So it goes and checks on your Wi-Fi router if this website has been accessed before within your network. Let's say you have another machine or another person in your network and he or she has accessed this information. And so that IP address is already the IP address. It's not, remember, it's not the cache, it's the IP address of that website is there within your router. So your router knows where directly to go and fetch this information. So the router goes directly through the ISP, transversing through the globe, goes to the server, gets back the information. That's a standard process. Let's say nobody has accessed this within your network. All right. So now what happens is the Wi-Fi now goes through the junction box. There is always a junction box where so many other people within your network, let's say in your area, are served internet through your ISP. So it is typically we are going to the internet service provider through the junction box. All right. So what happens now is the internet service provider also has a farm of DNS service. Okay, so what do we mean by a farm of service is it has a huge amount of service which is doing the only job of storing this DNS information and all. We will see very deep into the once we go deeper into the course, we will be looking into all that. But at this point, just understand that this IP address information of the website that you want to reach normally is stored within one of the servers, which is a DNS server maintained by your internet service provider. So let's say one of your websites is actually, was accessed, the website that you're trying to access was accessed by one of the person over the within the region. So a copy of that IP address is already there. All right. So so now we know that this IP address and belongs to this URL or the website URL. All right. So now, in the event that nobody accesses this website, so it's a very unique website that you're trying to access. So what happens is, you are now trying to, it will now still need to find the information. So the information is not there. So what it does is, it goes to another set of servers which is called as the ICANN. ICANN is the Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers. So the ICANN is like a master of the internet. All right. So every single information about the internet, the IP addressing, who gets what IP address, the public IP address, all this information is controlled. Mark my words, it's being controlled by the ICANN. All right. So that is why I'm saying the ICANN is the master of the internet. All right. So now this ICANN would typically have the information of the website, the IP address of the website that you are trying to access. All right. So there is again a concept of something called as the name servers. We will be looking at it at a later stage, but at this point, the ICANN is the master. So the information of the IP address is now found. So now it comes back to your IP, your ISP is now going to bring that information back, and it is now going to travel through a lot of switches and routers throughout the world. We are going to be seeing in the next slide, in real time, how the data is flowing, how the data request is flowing. But please do understand at this point in time that it is transversing through many layers of switches globally. We are not talking about a local area. We are talking about global transversing. All right. So where is your website hosted? It's usually hosted on a server, which is a web server, and that web server is connected. Either the data is sitting on a hard drive or a solid state drive, which is connected directly to the machine, or it is connected to a storage subsystem where the hard drive is sitting. So typically, what we are trying to understand here is the data is sitting on a hard drive or a solid state drive. All right. So it is within the platters of the hard drive where the zeros and ones are actually sitting. So the data is always about zeros and ones. So please do always think that data is about zeros and ones. Whether it's a website, whether it's an application, an image, a video, everything, whatever it is, it's about the zeros and ones. So now what happens is, the zeros and ones are presented in the correct format. So the information now travels back in the correct format, and it is presented onto your browser in the method or in the way it is supposed to be presented. All right. Usually web servers, again about the web servers, we'll be talking about the web servers later during the course. There are many types of softwares which do the job of a web server. Primarily, it is Apache. Globally, Apache is serves as the web server engine for most of the websites. However, there are other solutions also available in the market. All right. So this is the way the data is going to be transversing from the requester and back to the browser. All right. So remember, if you do have questions, do shout out into the WhatsApp group, or send me an email and I'll be responding to you, or you're free to call me also, and if I'm available, I can respond to you right away there. Now let's see how it is actually happening. Let's see in real time how this actual transfers of data is occurring over the internet. All right. So I wanted to go to a website which is it's a coffee shop in Houston. So it's called as Agora Houston. All right. So there is again the concept of content delivery networks. It's again a topic which we need to discuss in detail later. But at this point in time, I want to go to agorahouston.com. So there is this command called traceroute. Traceroute. On the Windows, you can run a command called tracert, Tracert, and I'm using the website's name. So remember, I'm trying to access this machine from within the US itself. So I will not get much information because this website is also hosted within the US. So you're seeing only 4 layers of data transversing there. Now there are many tools available online. There are online tools also. So Site 247 is one of our very reliable websites. So you can just search on your Google Site 247 trace route, and this page should open for you. So give the domain name, which is Agora Houston, and location. I want to change the location because I want to see an entire data transversing, right, real time, how the data is moving. So let me choose it from New Delhi. So it's always halfway around the world. It's almost halfway around the world. So now the data is getting generated. Let's see how the data is getting transversed now. All right, there you go. So you see that, from the requester, the data is jumping through many layers, through many switches before it is actually reaching the server. We are going to see one by one now, but see that, it is traveling from Delhi, and, then we can see it's going to London, and from London, then it jumps to the US. So we can see the whole way the data is actually flowing over the internet. All right, this website IP location, iplocation.net, I can go and put in my IP address, and I can check where the particular machine is hosted. So let me first search for the first location, which is shown there in the trace route output. Okay, it is now showing from that's the IP2 location, but you also see that it is Uttar Pradesh, Noida. So WebWorks India. So probably this is the server from which the request is originating. All right, then let's check out the next location. So I'm going and putting in the IP address. Yeah, so now I see that the next location, the data has now traveled to a new location. The requesting packet, the requester packet is now traveled to a new location, and it's in Delhi. All right. So let's see from Delhi, then it should be jumping through many layers. We see London specifically there. All right. So before checking there, let's look out this also. So this is called as in Tracert on the Windows world, and in there is this concept of NS lookup on the Linux world also. All right, see, we don't have much information here. All right, so why we don't have much information is because these are probably the networking devices where the network also does not have the information. Now let's look out for this one. All right, see, now the data has traveled from Delhi and it has already reached to London. Okay, so that's one side of the Atlantic, right? So it has already reached the Atlantic seaboard of the this part of the world. So it has to now cross the Atlantic. So now let's go and see where this is where the next hop is occurring. Remember this keyword hop. All right, it's still in London. However, we see that it is now pointing to probably a server or a switch, which is Telia company. Yeah. All right. Now let's check the next location. All right, we are already into the US now, and the city is Detroit. So this server or the switch is probably located in Detroit. So now we know that the website agorahouston.com is located in the US. We know that for sure because that's primarily a company which is in the US. So it is logical that it is hosted in the US only. So now we see that it is on A2 hosting server, but we see a different IP address here. So probably this is the IP address of a switch or the server, from which there are going to be subservers, and there is many layers, virtualized environment, physical environment, all that. But let's say the IP address to which the agorahouston.com was pointing was 75.98.175.79. So this is the way we see the actual data flowing from your browser. So remember, this is just the time actually it took for from your browser, the request for accessing the information of the website has traveled all over the world. So it has jumped through many layers. So from Mumbai, it went to Delhi. Then from Delhi, It went to London, and from London it went to the Michigan and Detroit, and from Detroit it has gone to another location, and so that is how the information is getting transversed on the internet, and it comes back to us. This is a free tool, and whatever I have discussed here is all available. All the tools are available freely to be accessed. So please do practice this. Try to test out this data flow. Go and find out a website which does not have content delivery networks. Sometimes you may not be seeing all the information. That is probably because they are using content delivery networks. Content delivery networks is quite an extensive topic we'll be discussing later in the course. But right now, please do understand that this is the data flowing through the internet at many stages. Thank you for watching this video.